The first round of free agency is wrapping up for the New Orleans Saints. We're going to talk about some of the comings and goings last 2 weeks or so. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. We're going to talk about the two big signings that the Saints have done so far in free agency. Chase Young, defensive end, and Willie Gay, linebacker. Kind of talk about him right now together because I've talked about him a lot already. I think this is really in the case of Young, a fairly good gamble with a prove-it deal that he's going to recover from the neck injury he played with all last year, which for a guy with kind of injury history he's had for the last 3 years, at least he I think it was 16 total games. I think he missed one because of it. Was still able to go out there. Of course, leads to the neck surgery situation. And the Saints kind of having to throw that prove-it deal with the majority of the money is actually tied up, $7.99 million of the 13. Kind of is if he has to miss time, i.e. if they have to put him on the PUP list to start the season or any IR that's related to that, he doesn't get paid for the weeks that he would be unavailable for the active roster. So kind of hedging their bets a little bit makes me feel a little better that at least if he can't play, and we really need him to play, but if he can't play, at least we're not paying for nothing in that case. So Willie Gay, on the other hand, I think kind of a prove-it deal the way he was signed for 1 year. But I like the signing. The more he speaks in interviews, I've seen a couple with him, the more people talk about him around the league. I'm really excited about this guy, that if he can bring that athletic play in really all three phases of the linebacking position, because run defense, especially sideline to sideline, coverage ability can be used to help spy or kind of handle those mobile / running quarterbacks that have really given the Saints problems over the years. So, and what I like most, and I think I've stated this before, but his attitude is, I want to play. I want to get on the field. I want to make plays. Won't make plays every play. He's admitted, and I'm going to miss some, but he wants really to push for starter snaps. So I think if he's a guy that works out, this is a kind of prove-it deal, maybe in the sense that the Saints are like, if you fit in, you belong, you work in the scheme. Such a young athletic guy, they're probably going to want to bring him back for some type of extended deal. And we're not quite there yet. Let's get a season under our belt with him. But he's a signing as a free agent, and it's been several years that I feel really good going. I think the value of the deal, the value of the player are kind of equal. Both sides kind of have to prove a little bit to each other, but this could be something that if it works out, you have a 25-year-old linebacker or so that you can have for the next few seasons. Push Pete Warner, maybe not. Maybe Warner kind of gets back on that production track we were expecting from early in his career. DeMario is DeMario. Don't expect a decline in his play. Haven't seen it yet. He seems to be the ageless middle linebacker version of Tom Brady, and I'm good with that if we can have him at a high level for the next 10 years. I don't think anybody can bet on that. And I think this is a really important and a really good move for the Saints. Both of them a little I'm going to be uneasy about Young until training camp approaches and we know exactly what the status is, but I'm not ready to throw up my hands on that one yet. But Gay is one that I think they really, both sides, the player and the team, did a really good job coming together on that one. And finishing up with the defense, we're going to talk about two players that the Saints actually brought back. Jonathan Abram was a first-round pick by the Raiders in 2019 that we had signed last year in free agency. And Ugo Amadi, who was a 2019 fourth-rounder by the Seahawks, also brought in last year, with two other veteran defensive backs that we'll talk about in a little while, who both have since departed the Saints. And I think that's why it was important that we bring these two back. Because of the four, Isaac Yiadom was the one who really stepped up, because they were all seeing playing time due to, kind of the usual suspects in the secondary missing time. And Yiadom played very, very well. The other three, Johnson plus the two we re-signed, I don't think at any point were really bad. Maybe a play here or there, but that's every defensive back in the league. But for the playing time they were getting, they, as veterans, because they were all veterans, they've all been around for quite a few years, they individually really weren't hurting you any more so than individually some of the other secondary guys that were playing were hurting you. So bringing that experience back, plus special teams play, with Marcus May leaving, with Yiadom leaving, with Johnson leaving, kind of in the secondary, it's a little bit of state of possible change, I guess, because looks like they like Jordan Howden. They're going to give the second year guys, some work back there. Haven't really heard anything about the Saints looking at any. There's a slew of free agent safeties available. Anything about the Saints trying to sign, but that could still happen. And you always have the draft. Maybe they bring in another young guy. But I think these two have shown enough already in the previous year, and assuming everybody on the defense gets better, because everybody in the defense, always needs to get better, correct? I think they could have a shot at trying to carve out some more playing time, more snaps in the secondary, a little above of last year when, like I said, it was mostly relying on them to kind of plug holes when they started appearing. Injuries, missed time, even sometimes just missed snaps, having to come in and play a series of two before somebody came back in the game. So, as far as I know, kind of minimal deals. We didn't really – I don't think the Saints were really in a position to sign all four of the veterans they had brought in last year. Yiadom got apparently a pretty good deal with Frisco, who desperately needs secondary help. And he played the best, so you were kind of expecting somebody was going to want to bring him in off the Saints or not letting him return to the Saints roster. So all in all, I think it was kind of a move you had to make. You had to bring some of that foursome, and really you were probably only really going to have the opportunity to bring two of the three back. So these are the two. Should kind of round out the Saints depth chart for now, and I suspect they're going to add draft or free agency, the kind of the late round after draft free agency where you can do more bargain shopping. The Saints, so far this free agency period, has shown a very methodical and patient, almost thoughtful, that we're not used to seeing. So it, in a way, I'm happy to see it. In a way, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. But so I think that portion of free agents, you'll see a lot of veterans having to sign after the draft once they know where the rookies are going and kind of how the rosters and the will shake out across the league due to the incoming rookies. There's always a possibility a little more veteran secondary help will be coming. So we'll see. But for now, I think it was very important that the Saints go ahead and get these guys locked back in and get them on the roster for this year. And we'll talk about a couple veteran receivers the Saints also brought in. Cedrick Wilson, just recently with Miami, Dallas before that, and Stanley Morgan Jr., who has been a Bengal up until this point. Both, like I said, veteran receivers, but slightly different kind of roles on their former teams. Wilson's kind of been a all-around receiver in both spots. Can play inside, can play outside. Decent size. I think he's somewhere around 6'1", 200, give or take an inch or 5 pounds here or there. He's kind of the consummate pro receiver. Has a reputation running good routes, catching everything. I saw a tweet from Nick Underhill, I think it was Friday, somebody asking if it's true in his 6-year career only had 7 drops, and Underhill replied, no, it was only 6. So there's a lot to like about a guy who basically averages dropping 1 pass a year for his career. Morgan was more of a special teamer with Cincinnati, and that, I think, is going to be his primary role. I do believe he had some return experience in addition to covering punts and kicks, which could be very important because it looks like the new NFL return rules are going to be passed with some changes, kind of sounding like kickoff return may be a little more part of the game again. So coverage is going to be important, and having some return ability is going to be very important. And I do believe Morgan, I mean, when you think about it, he spent better part of his career so far on a team that had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. So understandable if he couldn't quite. I think he was a rookie in 2019, maybe, somewhere around there. I can understand not fighting for a lot of receiving time with the Bengals. And we've got 3 pretty good ones here, but he may have an opportunity also to work his way into Wilson's likely the 4th receiver, that 5th, 6th role if we still keeping 6 receivers on the squad. So solid with the special teams. Again, kind of showing the importance that's going to probably start playing in the NFL again. And a chance to like some of the other guys that we signed that we talked about so far, there will be an opportunity there. They'll have a chance to seize to get more snaps and more playing time. One thing about both of them, actually 2 things about both of them. They both have previous playoff experience, and Morgan did play in the Super Bowl a few years ago with the Bengals, which, when we talked about the first segment with Young and Gay having both playoff experience and Super Bowl experience, as recent as 2023, kind of seeing a pattern develop here with players the Saints are bringing in from other organizations so far. So hopefully we've talked about the money. We've talked about trying to get the talent back on the roster, get it younger, more athletic, sprinkling a little dose of guys who in the last 3-4 years maybe can bring a little mentality of, hey, playoff like we used to have before the last 3 years. So very interested to note they keep kind of sprinkling that in a little bit, and I think it's very important for the culture of the team. And another free agent move, the Saints brought in Nathan Peterman, backup quarterback for the Bears. Backed up Carr with the Raiders, I believe, a couple of years. I think he has a few NFL starts sprinkled about, and I can't swear to this, and I tried to find it, but I think he might have been the guy that in his first start with the Bears threw like 3-4 interceptions in the first half of a game a couple of years back, but don't hold me to that. But I vaguely remember the name Nathan Peterman being associated with that. I'm kind of looking at this move as hopefully he can beat Chase Daniels. You brought him in as a league minimum. We're obviously tied to Derek Carr through at least 2025. And if you look at the way his contract appears to be structured now with $50 million still hanging out on the back end, that as far as I can tell is not guaranteed, but Kirk Cousins just got $45 million on average year from Atlanta. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Carr might be around a little longer than we're expecting. So hopefully the play, the offense, everything around him gets better. Hopefully he gets better. It's at least 2 more seasons with the Spectre, possibly more. The Saints may be looking that we're gonna ride with him for a while. So Haener is always floating around. Unfortunately for Haener, he's basically a rookie. But what's unfortunate for him is, because no meaningful snaps last season at all, is this isn't the offensive staff that was wanting to draft him. They're all gone. So if a rookie, just say quarterback, in that day 3 appears, that the current staff goes, yeah, we'd rather have him instead of Jake Haener. Yeah, that's kind of how things like this happen in the NFL. So Peter, I keep wanting to call him Peterman, kind of that. You're just looking at this going, I hope he doesn't have to play a whole lot. Based on how we handled the quarterback situation last year when Carr kept getting smacked around and having knocked out of games, we have no interest in playing the backup quarterback. And so therefore don't pay the backup quarterback. And that's pretty much the situation that is going on with this. So nothing to see here, folks, basically right now. And just a little note on signing we had late last week, I believe. Oli Udoh, offensive lineman, formerly of Minnesota. He was a 6th-round pick by them in 2019. Did not know a lot about him, really, still don't. So just a cursory look. In 2021, he had over 1,000 snaps, which is, if he wasn't a starter, he played an awful lot that year. The years before and since with Minnesota, not a lot of playing time, it looks like. And I don't really know why. It could have possibly been injury or, the old NFL, we found somebody better and you're back on the bench or lower end of the depth chart. What I find interesting of note in the whole thing is the 1 year that Clint Kubiak was the offensive coordinator for Minnesota was 2021. So I'm guessing he was brought in for a reason, whether it be to challenge for a spot. Kubiak maybe likes him for a reason. A veteran guy that knows Kubiak's system maybe brought him in for that. But this is a move that has some rhyme and reason to it, I do believe. So just have to keep an eye out on him. And maybe it's more of a James Hurst situation, a former starter and a coach that's familiar with him in this case, going, well, I know what I got there. I've got something I can lean on. Or maybe he's really here to challenge some of the former, or I would say the current offensive lineman who could be former if he comes in and takes their job, basically. And you're probably looking at the screen going, yeah, we know they signed 2 fullbacks. Brought Prentice back from last year and signed Xander Horvath, who was with San Diego, obviously. And I know I don't remember which teams, but he's been kind of a practice squad guy on a few other teams around the league. And the reason I'm bringing this up is really based on 2 words. Kyle Juszczyk, who, if you pay attention to what's going on in Frisco, been the fullback there a couple of years. Mostly does what fullbacks do. Tries to maul people in the running game. He brings pretty good pass pro protection when they call on him to use it. But the thing about Juszczyk in Frisco, Kyle Shanahan has shown, while he never, ever, ever featured that fullback in the offense, nor has he done it in the past, he has shown a knack for right about the time defenses are all keyed up to stop, rattle off the list of names: McCaffrey, Samuels, Ayuk, Kittles, all the way down the list. All of a sudden, it's Juszczyk. 1 or 2 plays, he gets a game, gashes you with a short pass for a key first down, or rumbles through the line on 3rd and 3 to pick up 4 and put you in victory formation, get you into the red zone so you can score, something along those lines. And I saw interviews with both Prentice and Horvath who mentioned Juszczyk by name. They're well aware. Prentice, traditional fullback that the Saints had the last couple of years, touched the ball a little bit and kind of, we all remember what happened on the goal line in the first Tampa Bay game, led to their quick score right before half, and basically that was it. And Horvath, I know very little about, but I do know Purdue, I believe, is where he played in college. He was actually a tailback, so used to running the ball, catching the ball, a little athletic ability. And his knock around with teams around the league has been primarily learning the fullback position and trying to earn a spot on a roster. So I bring this up for the fact that rarely can you say in the modern NFL what I'm about ready to say: hide the women and children, boys. We got a fullback battle coming in camp. And finally, just a quick note on the guys that have moved on to either new teams or in free agency right now. We talked about Yedem. That one hurts a little bit because I think he was your best depth in the secondary. Roach gave you depth and rotation on the interior defensive line. Yet another Saint has followed Sean to Denver. Bond, Winston, and Johnson, I feel like, for the most part, not a huge deal. We kind of replaced them all in some way, shape, or form in free agency. Going from Bond to Gay, upgrade. Lonnie Johnson, also, like I said earlier, was kind of in the same boat as Amadi and Abram. So we were able to bring 2 of the 3 back, and I think that was good enough. Winston, really, if you're not going to play your backup when your starter's hurting, then sign a Peterman for next to nothing. Let Winston move on and see what he can do elsewhere. There is multiple, I guess technically free agents who were on the roster last year that are unsigned. Prentice was one. Like we said, the 2 defensive backs were 2 more. So I didn't make a list of them. Just kind of note 3 names, 2 of which are not coming back. We pretty much put that in the 100% category. In safety, Marcus May, and wide receiver, Michael Thomas. And Andrus Peat, interesting case. I would put him as close to 100% not coming back as you can get without hitting triple digits. But one thing that I just kind of keep thinking about with him, he's testing the waters in free agency. I think he had a visit with the Titans last week, and as far as I know, was not signed. And I don't know what else he's got in testing the waters in free agency. We have seen the Saints do this in the past with veterans who, they kind of part ways with that. No initial interest, it seems, and he may be in that category where interest will come up after the draft, also like we talked about earlier. But in the back of my head, there's still the slim chance, for those of us who remember Mike McKenzie in the Super Bowl year for the Saints, where during the season, signing a veteran on like Wednesday, having him play on Sunday, cutting him on a Monday, and then repeating the process the following Wednesday. Pete still, if you have problems on the offensive line next year, which is a possibility, and Pete still remains unsigned, I can see where that's that weekly, bi-weekly, add him to the roster, let him go, a month later, maybe bring him back. Some type of situation like that. Obviously, the league minimum, no real money on it. I think the rules have changed a little bit, so I don't think you can quite do what we did with McKenzie in 2009, but we've seen the Saints operate in a very similar fashion over the years, so if he has no options and we have no options come the kickoff of the season and we could be each other's only options, then there's that slim chance you may see him back in a Saints uniform at some point. So that's all we have for today. Please leave comments below, or you can hit me up at Twitter at Tim_BNG. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications. If you're on Rumble, go ahead and hit the follow. Thank you very much for joining. I'm Tim. Peace out. Who dat?